Hi, welcome back to Aura on Air. I'm Sapna, the nurse practitioner. I have Dr. Vaidya with us. And today we have our special guest, Payal Desai, aka Payal for Style. We're so excited to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome. And so, Payal, we want to hear a little bit about you and then your journey from, how you're kind of now become this household name. I mean, I have cousins who, when you come in and you post, they're like, I can't believe she's at Aura. Like, do you know her? She's so amazing.
Oh my God. I love that. So, my 9 to 5, I'm a middle school teacher, and I have been teaching this is my 16th year.
Oh, wow.
I got into social media, I would say maybe 4 years ago. And it really stemmed from being the person in my family and in my groups of friends who was the person to go to with outfit ideas and beauty and can you glue my lashes on? What should I do with my hair? And I was like, you know what? I see some girls out here sharing on social media, and I've always been a storyteller. I used to have a blog in high school, and being a teacher, you are a storyteller in that respect. So I was like, let's take this to social media. So it really was beauty and style and sticking to those niches, but it evolved as I evolved. I became a mom, and I decided I wanted to put some more of that out there. Different challenges that I faced, I started to become really comfortable with my audience and just authentically sharing. And as I continued doing that, social media is a space where some people are very curated and kind of have this surface that they won't go past. And I started to just become very unapologetic, I think really during the pandemic when I was just behind a screen, and it worked to my benefit because I was at home and I would just, again, creating behind my screen or storytelling, and I put it all out there, my sobriety, challenges in motherhood, and since that point, it has steadily gained traction until this past summer when I started the Dusty Sun series, and that really took off. And so now I get to share so much of what I'm doing as a mom, what we're doing as parents to raise our boys. And I think what it was is I found that topic that people hadn't been talking about, and people need to be talking about. And so that is where I'm at with, those, and I'm still teaching, but I just love doing the content and connecting with my audience.
Yeah, I mean, as a boy mom myself, I love your content. First, I think,
Thank you.
It's funny because you're saying beauty and makeup and clothing and fashion, and I'm like, I think you're so funny. You have such a great sense of humor.
You have great content.
Yeah, and but as a boy mom, the most recent content on Dusty Suns really spoke to me, because I'm like, you're talking about things that some of us are trying to teach our boys or not teaching our boys, but we need to be having this conversation. So it was great because you did it in such a humorous way. It wasn't so serious. Okay, it was you shed light on an area where we don't often talk about, and you've gained so much traction from it. Positive traction, but I'm sure there's some negative traction as well, or feedback.
Because anytime that you touch on a topic that is, I suppose, controversial, which is a little, saying that out loud, just trying to raise my sons in a certain way is controversial. Why? Because I think that the underlying tone of it is perhaps can be seen as critical or pointing out something that has been done a certain way, or boys have been raised a certain way for this long, and so I'm wanting to shake that up.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is also just in our community too, right? Mm-hmm. In previous episodes, we've talked about different barriers that we face, and I'm sure it's not just the South Asian communities, probably other communities as well, where, the patriarchal, the son is it's still that old, you're the breadwinner, mom, even though nowadays, they're splitting, careers and everything like that, it's still the mom is, predominant role, you're still going to be in charge of the kids, and if the father's helping, it's well, he's a hands-on dad. Or things like that, where or if you're doing something around the house, it's you're so lucky, your husband does so much around the house, it's but he should be.
Right.
So I think a lot of that is just just the way that many of us, saw our parents doing it, and it just kind of gets passed down. And I think it is a difficult conversation, and it is, really, really critical to have these conversations, because that's the only way that, we're talking about it and other people are going to start thinking about it.
Right. And there's this physical labor aspect of it. Absolutely. Like running a household takes every individual to be part of that. In my upbringing, my father traveled a lot, and my mom was doing all the aspects of physical labor, cleaning, cooking, taking care of the household, fresh meals every night. Like she just lived up to that expectation. And now the difference that I see is that both partners have jobs that they really care about. And my mom did start working later in life, but many of us have like careers that we're building, and in many households women are making more than men. And so why then are those physical burdens of running the household still falling on a woman? So we've changed so many things about how we show up in our relationships and for our families, yet those practices are still archaic, and so we need to talk about it.
No, absolutely. And being South Asian, it was always like, get the bigger house, so you got a bigger house, but now but you have to do well, you have to go to school, you have to have this career. So you have the career, you have this huge house, but then you're supposed to take care of this huge house, right? And you're like, I can't even keep up, and you're constantly drowning, and you need the help of your children, and obviously having boys and teaching them at a young age and making it fun, and I feel like that's what you've done. You've made it fun, you've made it funny, so it's not like they're like, oh, this is not work, this is something that we're doing with mommy. And that leads to my next question is, how are the boys? Like, do they love filming these segments with you? Are they like, oh, I gotta, like, they're young, but
how many takes does it take?
Usually, I'm like really mindful of the fact that this is something that I want to film and I want to share. And so there's a kind of a process that goes into play. Like sometimes there's an idea, sometimes it just comes to me. And I always ask permission. I think that that's so important. And that's actually criticism that I've gotten, where it's like, you're just using them, like they just show up in your content. Have you even asked their permission? Well, yeah, I have. And if anyone is like, I'm not feeling it, cool. Yeah. Then we're not feeling it. We're not going to do it. And so we will film it, but there's always a conversation that takes place specifically with my 7-year-old. My 3-year-old, he'll do more of like the helping me unload the dishwasher, which I think is still impactful of him like helping me do something. But with my 7-year-old Carter, I get to have these awesome conversations. And over the course of time that I've been doing this content since August, he's shown me different sides of him, where there are moments where I can see that like the conversations are resonating, and that he wants to do certain tasks and be part of things and reflect on the way, because yes, we talk about the physical labor, but like a huge part of the content is also allowing him to be emotional and accept his own emotions and think through how he's processing. And we have to teach kids that at a young age, and it's something that I didn't learn. And so just to hear him reflect on that, like, it's a win-win. Yes, the content is resonating with others, but it's having an impact in my own home. And so that's why I'm going to keep doing it. Because if it wasn't, then we'd stop. We'd turn another creative direction. Social media has so many opportunities, and that's why I really enjoy it. But this series is still going, and still, like, I don't even know how many videos I have with it, and there's always so much ground to cover as we're raising our kids. But I love the impact that it has on them.
Do you ever have moms of kids that are in your class come talk to you, during the parent-teacher conferences or things, or bring that up? Like, I'm sure you do.
It's so funny because we just had parent-teacher conferences like a month ago, and I had 6 different parents like on their way out. They'd be like, I love your content. And now I teach 8th grade. Okay, so middle school kids at that age are, a lot of people don't want to work with them, and I'm like, no, they're a joy actually, because it's full of these challenges, and I really enjoy the time that I have with them. But it is challenging. And so parents will be like, thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. And the kids actually see the content too, because it's a public page. So they're like, yeah, that's what you're doing. And like, I'll kind of get their feedback too. So everyone's seeing it and it's kind of cool.
Yeah. And
Your-
so, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do your students ever say like, "Hey, that resonated with me," or have they ever given you feedback like that?
Not to that extent, but I know that they're seeing it. And so, like hopefully on some level it is resonating. Or I'll kind of be like, do you pack your own lunch?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like, do you do your own laundry? Like, you should do stuff like that. You should, you got a lot going on in your household. Like, you can pick up that slack. So it's not just teaching English in my classroom. Guys. We'll go beyond that and
Learn life skills.
Yeah, life skills.
So when you're putting yourself on social media, and you have a ton more followers now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, 250, 300,000?
It's almost 297
Yes.
on Instagram.
Okay, guys,
And like
so
290 on TikTok.
Yeah.
So
Let's
it's
get
you're
you
there.
three.
Yeah.
How do you navigate, any of like the social media bullying?
Yeah.
That may come through, and I'm sure it comes
Oh,
through
yeah.
because it comes. I mean, we don't have as many followers at all, but there were a few posts that we posted, and there was somebody that wrote something negative about like a treatment or something that we offered, and we've had previous guests talk a little bit about bullying online, and so how do you get a lot of it? Is it is it frequent, and how do you handle it, and how are you able to kind of cut it off from your personal and not let it affect you?
So definitely fair question, because there's quite a bit. So I think one thing I pride myself on with the social media is I show up really authentically, not the curated content, but if you go on my stories, you'll always hear from me. And I share things that I think, I always think about, like, how am I going to relate with my audience, but like also what is something that I want to talk about that isn't openly talked about, that maybe somebody will feel heard or seen through. And so even if it's like talking about marital issues that come up, like we always want to, look at social media as this like curate everything's perfect, and life isn't perfect.
Yeah.
And so in my own comfort zone, like as vulnerable as I want to be, I do show up. And so I think what that's led to is this sense of community in my following. So when a comment like that comes up, it's really funny, but I'll be like, I feel like I'm the last one to get to it, because before I have, there is a band of people who have been like, why would you say that? And like there'll just be this whole thing that ensues that I come to, and I'm like, okay, well, my work here is done.
Yeah.
And so then I'll just like go through and like the person who had my back. So there's a lot of that happens, which we also, human nature is to focus on the negative, but you just really have to take everything with a grain of salt and understand that, like, sadly, there are people out there who are struggling, and there's only one reason why somebody would go on social media and like make fun of my nose or make fun of other parts of my life or my body or my children, because they're hurt.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
when you really see that and embrace that for what it is, you can pull yourself out of it. And if it wasn't me that they were after, they'd be after somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
And so something that I'm doing is triggering them. But I hold a lot of truth in what I'm doing. Everything I post is either reflecting me or I'm proud of. And if I'm not, then I'm not going to post it. And so because I feel like I have that level of like honesty on the content that I'm doing, it's like, I don't know, I don't let it bother me. Also, I do teach middle school.
Yeah. So
Also, there is a level of thick skin
For sure.
that a middle level educator has. Okay, so also, so I think that's part of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's incredible that you're so empathetic to that person. A lot more people are so reactive or will, want to, even before, let's say, even after reading it and you've had all these people kind of band behind you, it's still, you take it personally, and so for you to take that comment and say, I'm triggering you, I'm empathetic to you, you're hurting. I think that's so powerful,
Yeah.
and that incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. I think that it's just really again, like holding your truth and making sure that you're showing up the way you want to and completely owning that, and then not a lot that other people can say can break that down.
Yeah.